So the big question is this: how are those in the self-storage industry like us going to be successful in today's market? That's the question, and this show will give you the answers. My name is Jim Ross, and welcome to the Self-Storage Show.
Hi everyone, this is Jim Ross in the Self-Storage Show. Got another episode here coming for you where we're interviewing owners of self-storage. It's one thing I've been, talking about storage for years and years and years, but I want to have you hear from people that are actually doing it and owners are in the game, especially right now where it's such a hot topic in the industry of people jumping in. I want to have you hear from people that are actually doing it. So I got Martin Taradejna with us today. How's it going, Martin?
Good, Jim. How are you?
Good. We just kind of got introduced to each other not too long ago, so we're getting to know each other and been kind of fun. I figured like a perfect guest, so this would be great. If you don't mind, just kind of introduce yourself, kind of go from there, and I'll answer some questions.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Looking forward to this. I'm Martin Taradejna. I'm from Coda Management Group and One Stop Self Storage. Our headquarters is in Northbrook, Illinois, and we have facilities across the Midwest, even spanning into Virginia and Maine, actually. So we have 8 facilities in our portfolio, and just growing every year, trying to add a few more to the portfolio. So I've been with Coda since 2015, and I started my real estate journey in 2010.
nice. So you started back in 2010 in real estate. What made self-storage kind of come onto your radar?
Sure. Yeah. So I was actually I was a realtor in downtown Chicago, and I had some clients who owned apartment buildings, and their tenants, I helped them manage it. I helped them find tenants, and I was noticing that, the consumer economy that the US is, a lot of people are looking for place to put things when they don't have the attic, they don't have the garage, they don't have the basement, so multifamily, I saw how it lent itself to self-storage and vice versa. And so I I really enjoyed understanding that dynamic, and I think just seeing how there was such a demand and a need for it, and it didn't really register in my head until years down the line in 2015. I had a partner he had a design build firm, and he was helping one of his clients try and find a mismanaged self-storage property.
Yeah.
And it didn't exist. And so he said, well, he mentioned to his client, what if we, buy a warehouse building and we convert it? And so that's what they did. And they ended up doing really well on it. And so there was a model there that could be reproduced. And so when I came on, we were doing some residential fix and flips, and then there was a trust that we built, and then he said, what do you think about buying a box and trying to find and source a deal to convert? So historically, our business has been mostly conversions.
Gotcha.
In 2017, we bought the old Lincoln Log factory in Chicago. It's in the Logan Square neighborhood.
Like the old toy thing, Lincoln Logs?
Yeah, the kids'
Really?
blocks.
That's cool.
Yeah, so we bought that. It's right off the Pettyway there in the 606 in Logan Square, and gets about 1.1 million pedestrians over the course of a year. So it had good exposure. It wasn't on a major street, but we evaluated it, and the numbers worked. And
please tell me you made like a little model of a self-storage facility out of Lincoln Logs. Just out of homage to it. That'd be awesome.
What's funny about that is I actually, the guys joke, but I'm a visual guy, and we have this building in Louisville that we're converting currently, and it's kind of Tetris pieces with we're part of it we're retaining as flex space, and then the balance of the building we're converting into self-storage. And I literally went to Target and bought like Legos so that I could color code the different tenants and like Tetris piece it in there. So it's funny that you joke about that, but it's real.
Awesome. So. That's great. I actually had a total off subject, but I actually commissioned one guy to build me like a storage facility out of Legos. One time. It actually looked really cool. I'll have to show you a picture of it. It was neat. It was years ago. So you guys jumped into it. You guys are doing conversions then, because I hear that a lot. Some people that are getting into it, like, where do we start? Do we buy existing? Do we build? You kind of merged with the
we felt like given the constraints with entitlements and zoning when it comes to building ground up, and then just how expensive it can cost to build ground up, frankly, right? Just land preparation alone. So we started looking at industrial warehouse buildings that were underutilized or empty, vacant, maybe an eyesore, where the municipality wanted nothing more than for somebody like us to come in and add some value and make it to something to benefit the community. So we leveraged that, and I think that if there's anybody out there that has an eyesore in their neighborhood, call me, because we can do something with it, right? And so I think that that's something we look to acquire buildings between 10 and $20 a foot, and then convert at roughly $35 to $40 a foot. Now, given the inflation with the cost of materials and labor these days, I think it's probably closer to 45 or 50 a foot.
Sure.
So those are kind of some initial points that you want to evaluate when you're looking at converting. And then we mixed in a couple existing facilities and stabilized assets to balance out the portfolio while we are still in the midst of lease up with some of the buildings that we put online over the last few years. So it's been an interesting ride.
No, I mean, sounds like you guys kind of got a taste of it. You seem to like it. If you got up to 8 facilities and you keep growing, I know you kind of, you definitely want to keep growing as you're moving along this path. So that's great.
Yeah, we think, as we grow and gradually expand, I think it's, building the portfolio and they're all going to benefit from each other if we have a disposition and sell it together, right? Yeah. So the REITs and private equity funds are wanting to write big checks, and I think that the transactional costs associated with sale, they're not interested in picking these off one by one. I think that they like to portfolio them and buy 10, 20 assets at a time.
Sure.
And so we can benefit from that cap compression when we piece them together like that. And so the last year we noticed that creating our own brand, the one-stop brand, really brings that congruency across the portfolio. And instead of promoting Extra Space or Life Storage or CubeSmart, we're promoting our own brand rather than having them manage and putting their brand on the building. We put our own brand. And I think that that's important for people to understand, because that's free marketing for them, and nothing against them. I have my colleagues and counterparts at the REITs, but they that there's no benefit, as if people don't even know that they don't even own the building. They could be a potentially third-party management group, right? So I think that's a interesting dynamic that we kind of came to terms with over the last 18 months.
I mean, that's something I've switched my own opinion on. And I used to be always like, no, just keep everything separate. That facility is the name of the city, self-storage, that kind of thing. Just keep their own entities, and that way you can sell them off one by one. It makes things easier. I flipped that myself. Probably this
Yeah.
last couple of years, I've just seen more and more people going after portfolios, and to me, it's just cleaner. I like that, just having more
Absolutely.
of the portfolio branding. So you guys have hit that on the head, so that's great. So I was curious, as you guys are, again, you're not newbies anymore. You've been in enough years now to have some lessons and taking your licks and
Absolutely.
mistakes along the way. How's that going along? Any kind of lessons learned you might want to give to the audience here?
Yeah, yeah. We've had many challenges, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Sure.
There's mistakes that are always made. I call it tuition. But there, that you have to look at it as an opportunity. The big thing in our office is, accountability and acknowledgement of, that's a big theme for us, and really, just, okay, we made a mistake. This is what we need to do and move forward. You present the challenge to your investors, to your lenders, to your partners, and you say, okay, but this is what we're going to do about it. Not just presenting the challenge, but presenting the solution to it.
Yep.
And not being premature of just, okay, being the alarmist of saying, this is what happened, but I have no idea what we're going to do about it. That's really not the best way to go about it. So you really need
It doesn't get much confidence when you do that. So.
Yeah. So I think, the biggest thing I think for me personally is setting proper expectations, and being conservative with projections and really understanding that things cost more and take longer than we ever expected. And I think, honing in on that and really applying stress tests and, looking at the worst case, best case, most likely to happen scenarios. I think, COVID being exhibit A, like who could have predicted something like that to just come across the table, right? So, the other things that I think I've learned over the years is, we talk to family offices and, you can talk about projections and IRR until you're blue in the face and they kind of, oh, that's cute. But what about, the tax benefits that, commercial real estate in general, never mind self-storage, allows, us to legally shelter capital gains or benefit from depreciation, cost segregation studies. I think that that's something that, they want to talk about tax shelters and tax benefits before anything. And that's really where I started to understand how powerful, real estate is. And I think that that's one thing that if I could get across to anybody is that's why people are in it. Frankly, you're in the stock market, you can take your gains and parlay them into a self-storage deal. We work with opportunity zones, and for those that don't know what they are, it's just underdeveloped areas that maybe lower economic areas that they want to promote development in certain cities and municipalities where they incentivize you to come in and add value to land or buildings, again, that may be an eyesore. So and you can benefit from the tax benefits. There's 5, 7, and 10-year thresholds that you have to meet to keep the money or the capital deployed in that area. But and I can get more into that, but it's basically a drop in your basis from a tax liability standpoint. And I think that when you're talking about stocks and bonds and crypto and all these different asset classes, similar to a 1031 exchange, where people will take it from a like kind asset and parlay it into the next like kind asset, versus here you can take it from different asset classes and roll it into real estate and storage. So
that's great. Yeah. I always talk to people, and of course, they're in real estate. Obviously, that's my wheelhouse, and who I'm always talking with. And I just had this conversation with the guy last week. He's like, I'll make it real simple for you. He's like, it's not so much about even generating money, it's about keeping my money. Like,
100%.
Yeah. It's
100%. Yeah. If you study the wealthy people, it's about preserving capital rather than necessarily growing capital, right? And obviously everybody wants to grow capital, right? But really preserving it, and understanding that's the first component is really important.
Yeah, it kind of struck me because it was just so simple. It's like, no, my first priority is keeping my money. That's like, oh, all right. Yeah, I just always think of, just generating and getting more revenue, but no, he's concerned about keeping his money. So yeah.
Yeah, this is the good old saying, making money is easy, but keeping it is the hard part. It rings true for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I always like to talk to people, owners, especially that are growing their portfolios and that, because I've seen more and more sites that are they're managing themselves and keeping that vertical integration in their organization, or they're having third parties coming in and help them manage it. What are you guys doing at your sites?
Yeah, I think it's, as I mentioned, the one-stop brand. So it's a little hybrid. I think we have vendors, but we have boots on the ground. But I don't like to say that we micromanage. But we do have, in-house digital marketing teams. We have in-house management. So it's a little bit of both.
Nice.
I think that we really, lenders are going to be always evaluating your progress when it comes to lease up and performance. And I think that, holding everybody accountable that's involved is really important because, it's not that I'm breathing down anybody's neck. It's the lender who's, going to be watching what we're doing. Right. And that can, if you're not performing, then you're not reaching your break-even points. You're not getting to the point where you're covering your debt service, or in operations. So those are things that, you just have to definitely keep an eye on and make sure you're every month, that the on-site guy is doing his job, the people that are in the office, they're answering the phones. I notice sometimes when, it goes to the call center, it doesn't get converted as highly, right? Whereas if you're speaking to somebody that's at the location on site, who has the proper information, familiar with the facility, you have a better opportunity to close the tenant and have them engage. So I think that that's something that, we keep a close eye on and make sure, that we're all doing our job.
Yeah, it comes down to accountability. That's
100%.
what I always tell my clients, like, it's accountability and transparency. That's you have those two components together, you're ahead of the game, So and again, nothing's ever smooth. There's bumps in the road. It's like you said before, being accountable, talk about it, but then have a plan to make it better. So,
yeah, when we have investors and I always offer them referrals to see what our current investor base has to say about us. And again, the good, the bad, the ugly, they'll explain to them, hey, yeah, these guys have had challenges just like everybody else, but they're working hard. They're doing what's in the best interest of their partners. Their fiduciary duty, they do whatever they have to do to get it done. And I think that, I could tell you some horror stories, but I'll spare you. But I think that people
that'll be part two. All right.
What's that?
That'll be part two.
Yeah, that'll be part two. But I think, even just recently, our investors just say, wow, you guys are really taking this on head on. And I think it's really important to convey that you're doing whatever you can, whether it's, let's say hypothetically, you have to have an opportunity to either have a capital call or raise additional equity. Are you going to dilute your existing partners, LP partners, or are you going to dilute yourself? That's a tough call sometimes. And I'm proud to say we've never had a capital call within our firm, and I think that I hang my hat on that. I can always answer that question with no. We always dilute ourselves when when there's a need for additional capital, whether it's an overage in construction or an unexpected tax increase, or there's always different things in these variables and that after they happen, you take them into consideration moving forward. But there's only so much you can predict. So I think the other thing for some of the visitors that you have, trying to break into self-storage, I think it's important to really understand that, because you asked about management. I think that all that can be found, you can work through that on the back end, but I think finding the deal right now, there's a lot of capital flooding the market, chasing too few deals. And so sourcing either an existing facility or a box or land, I think is the name of the game. And if you find it, then the money will follow, one. Two, the rest of it, if you don't know anything about storage, I mean, you can figure that out. You can grow into that. I don't want to say storage is easy. I think that there's a big misconception that self-storage is an easy business. It can be. You got to keep it simple, but it can, I think it's human nature for us to overcomplicate things sometimes. And I think the simpler you keep it, I would probably advise if people are looking to get into the business, they either find an operator to invest with passively or go and find an existing stabilized facility, because one, they're going to be able to get a loan a lot easier than facilitating construction or converting or developing. And I think the other thing too is, get your marketing dollars up, because there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of, private equity funds, hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds that not only are they coming and buying all the single family rentals across the country, and portfolioing them, but they're also looking at storage, and it's not getting there. It's already there. It's been there. And I think that, again, there's this misconception that it's going there. It's already the fifth fruit, as one of my colleagues calls it. So I don't, it's no longer this underground asset class. If you look at how it's performed, even in the last two, in 2008, and then during COVID, is the darling asset class. Everybody else got exposed and wiped out, right? I mean, there was, so
that's one thing I hear time and time again. It's COVID just exposed so much. A lot of the other asset classes, they couldn't perform compared to what storage is. It was night and day, quite frankly. And I've had,
well, it was an essential business too. If you think about storage, people were able to keep their doors open, right? And so people needed it. It showed how necessary it is.
We're no longer under the radar. Everyone's
I wish we were. I wish we were.
And they find deer so much easier.
That's right.
And just curious, because you touched on it earlier, as people coming into the business, finding deals. And that, honestly, that's the number one thing I keep hearing back is like, I can get the money, I can do this, but I'm just trying to find the deal that works, especially for the amount of money that they're going for right now. It's hard to make the numbers work.
Just, again, similar to the residential side of things, expectations from sellers. I mean, they have all the leverage right now, right? So they have very, I don't want to say improper expectations, but brokers are out there selling them on, do you know what it's worth? Do you understand what I could get you for this? And they don't even believe them. And what's even worse is that they're actually getting that number, right? Because again, there's so much capital chasing so few deals. So my job is to get to them before the broker does, right? And that's
exactly
to acquire, when it comes to acquiring existing and trying to talk to them, to let them know who we are and that I'm real. And if you'd like to check out our website and understand that I'm not here to lowball anybody, I'm going to give you a fair, if not more than fair offer, because that's just kind of what's happening in the marketplace right now. So it's dictating. I'm not paying stupid money for deals, but there is that out there, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I think you kind of go back and forth with, okay, do I give this seller, a little bit more that maybe he didn't earn and add that value, but then, it gives me the ability to engage and take down the deal. I think there's a lot of that going on. We don't do a lot of it. We try and keep very, I think market rate, but cap rates are compressed. and a lot of money flooding into it.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. That's that's one thing I need to like having these kind of conversations. I just kind of keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. That's definitely been the trend. There's a lot of money coming into it for sure. It's just finding the right deals now. So again, admire you guys. You guys are growing, and you got plans to keep going. So that was great. I'll keep tabs on you, see how things are going in the future. Maybe we'll do that part 2 we were talking about. We'll do some more stories.
Fair enough.
All right.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, man. It's good seeing you.
You too. Thanks a lot, Martin. Take care. Yeah. Bye. As a thank you for watching and listening, I'd like to give you the most incredible free gift ever, designed to increase your leads, rentals, and revenue for your self-storage business. It's called the Ultimate Self-Storage Management Playbook, and it contains courses, past summits, my book, and so much more. You can get all of this for free right now at 3milestorage.com. That's the number 3milestorage.com.